to reconfigure and sharpen and also get a good tune up so that we can kick off next year, third week, about the same time, the third Thursday of the new year. So we're going to be having somebody fresh, somebody different, somebody young and dynamic. A lot of people have been saying to me, Pastor Itwa, we want young people, we want young people, we want young people. I said, yeah, we'll get young people. Well, we get real people, we get good people. But I'm pleased tonight to find, to have on the platform one of the best of a certain generation. I sit on the board with him. I hear his remarks, I hear his contributions, very, very insightful, very strong, very powerful, very focused. And then when I discovered that he was also very active politically, I said to myself, I must get him to talk and let us get the thinking of people of his generation so that we know exactly where Nigeria is going. A lot of people have said they don't know why 70 and 80-year-olds are discussing in Nigeria that they will not see. That's a good one. But at least they can prepare the grounds for that future. Tomiwa Aladekomo is the acting national chair of the Youth Party of Nigeria, a registered political party. The Youth Party is dedicated to generational change in the Nigerian electronic process, working hard to bring a wave of competent, engaging, and capable young leaders into office, and to build a more prosperous Nigeria that works for all citizens. They aim to inspire and motivate the youth demography by running on bold ideas that move beyond the unimaginative dogma of the two major political parties. They recruit and field candidates with strong professional experience and nurture a leadership pipeline to provide candidates for the future. He is also the CEO of Big Cabal Media, which publishes the technology and youth publications Tech Cabal and Zikoko. An experienced executive, Mr. Aladekomo has worked extensively across media and marketing roles in Nigeria and North America. Okay, his father is a great friend of mine, Chairman Chams, and he's also on the board of Chams Nigeria PLC. He has a BSc in Administration, Business Administration from Boston University, and an MSc from no less than Columbia University, New York. He's also a fellow of the Archbishop Desmond Tutu Leadership Fellowship, run by the African Leadership Institute. We're speaking tonight on Nigeria, the next generation of political leaders. Tomiwa, welcome to the Nigerian Leadership Series. And thank you for accepting to be on this platform. And thank you also for all that you are doing and all that you have done to try and galvanize the young people. Now I want to have a very, very frank and very focused discussion with you. And I'd like you to just give us a little snippet of your background and how you found yourself in politics or in leadership and so on and so forth. So please go ahead, Tomiwa. The floor belongs to you.
Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for having me. And hello, everyone. My name is Tomiwa Aladekomo, as has been said. I'm a member of a political party called the Youth Party, and it's something that I've come to very recently in my life. I don't think I would, prior to this, have really thought of myself as very political. But um, as Pastor Itwa mentioned, I spent about a decade of my life in the US studying. And since then, I moved back to Nigeria. And the longer I've stayed in Nigeria, the more I realized the impossibility of being here without being engaged in the political process. So I'm going to speak a little bit, and I think for those who are following us on Zoom, hopefully you can see some of the slides I'm sharing. For those on Instagram, I will speak to them. A little bit about the way I think about Nigeria's next generation of political leaders. My personal journey has started because I live in the country. I'm attempting to build a business in the country, and I see the challenges of building in a country where the macroeconomic conditions are continually declining. I see the difficulty of attaining any success and maintaining to the country where so many people are poor, where the insecurity level is so high, where it is so very difficult for many people to make ends meet. And for those who do somehow or the other survive and succeed and thrive in this environment, it's quite difficult to enjoy that success while looking around all of the people who don't have it. It's quite difficult to enjoy that success knowing how unsafe the country is for those who have succeeded. It's quite difficult just having any level of empathy to live in the country and see these realities and feel comfortable with them. And so the longer I stay, the more political I become. And when I first moved, there was a common statement which was moved back here. If we just let government stay out of the way, the private sector will fix this country. Unfortunately, what we've come to realize is that's not really true. It's not the way things work. Um, the country will not thrive if we are not able to, uh, if the if the government is not responsive to the needs of people, if their policies are bad for business, if their policies drive people into poverty. And so I think for Nigeria's youth, we start on the sidelines for a very, very long time. And it's increasingly critical that we pay attention and that we get engaged in the political process. So I'm speaking this evening, Pastor, it was request about sort of the future of Nigeria and our political leadership. What does the next generation of political leaders look like? So as I mentioned, I'm a member of the Youth Party. We're very cool for new ideas and new approaches to politics. Our goal is a generational change in Nigeria's electoral politics. And our goal is to inspire and motivate the youth demography, which is the largest voting demographic or potential voting demographic, because currently they don't vote very much, uh, but inspire them to actually vote by running on bold ideas that move beyond sort of the standard dogma, by recruiting and fielding candidates with strong professional experience, with the competence and the character required to build a great future for Nigeria. So this topic is quite close to our hearts. So first, the question: why do we need a new generation of leaders? That presumes that we have agreed that the current leaders aren't doing it. I won't go into the statistics about today for why the current leaders aren't doing it. I will speak to the future. So let's not talk about today. Let's talk about the future of Nigeria. I think it's a given that Nigeria today is poor, it's insecure, it doesn't serve the majority of people. Our yeah, the country doesn't serve the majority of the people. Our unemployment rates are super high, our poverty rates are super high, and all of these statistics have declined over the last few years. Um, but I want to talk about the future. I want to talk about what futures are possible for Nigeria. Um, Sir, I don't know if you could confirm. Are you able to see the slides that I'm
Yeah,
sharing?
we can see the slides. I can see the slide.
Okay.
Thank you.
The NESG is one of Nigeria's sort of foremost sort of think tanks, economic think tanks. They do a lot of work looking at. They've done a bit of work looking at the country over the next 30 years. What do we look like in 2050? Today, we have a population of about 200 million. By the year 2050, we'll have a population of 410 if we keep growing about the way that we are. 67% of that population will be below the age of 35. When we talk about why we're the youth party, it's because of that statistic. Um, the large majority of Nigeria's population will be young people. It already is, and it will continue to be for at least 30 more years. And as that population grows, It puts more pressure on things like um, our resources, social security, our infrastructure, your food security as a country, the pressure on land. When I talk about the pressure on land, when people talk about herdsmen, they don't understand what it is that is at play. It's because the water routes that people used to graze are drying up. So people are looking for water, they're looking for grazing lands further and further in places where they wouldn't have gone before, places where people are farming. So your insecurity grows because people are competing for smaller and smaller resources. Our human capital, our jobs, everything, the pressure becomes more and more over this 30-year period. Now, what are the possibilities? We can stagnate. We can stay where we are. Nigeria doesn't grow, it doesn't increase significantly. We just continue like a zombie country the way we are. Or we can boom. We start to move millions of people out of poverty. We become an industrialized nation. We start to move into the Nigeria that most of us dream of. Or Nigeria can decline. So we go through hardship. We become a burden to the global economy. We start to fragment. Unemployment becomes rampant. We start to disintegrate as a country. And you can see some of that happening. And then there's the scenario where we don't really do any of those. We just kind of stagnate somewhere between stagnation. We're just managing ourselves. Um, in these scenarios, the country looks very, very different in 30 years. You can go up. Your GDP goes to 11.6% per year, which means you are growing. If your GDP is growing 11% per year, it means that sort of roughly every 6 to 8 years, you probably double the size of the economy. If you're growing at 3.4%, it takes 20 years, 30 years to grow double the size of the economy. Or you go into recession, which we're actually a little bit ahead of schedule here. We've gone into recession before 2020 is out. And there's a scenario in which we don't come out of that recession, we just stay and it continues. And 30 years from now, the economy is actually smaller than it is today. What are the implications of that? Our unemployment rate goes from roughly 20%, 21% where it is today to 75% in the worst case scenario. Or it comes somewhere in the middle and we're about 30% or so. In the best case scenario, it drops to about 8%. What does that look like in terms of number of unemployed people? You have, in the worst scenario, 193 million unemployed people. In the best scenario, you have 18 million. Think about that, 410 million people, only 18 million of them unemployed. That means the majority of the population is making money, they are earning incomes, they are feeding their families, they can feel secure in the country that they live in. Your poverty rate, in the worst scenario, it's 80%. In the best scenario, it's 8%. Or it can be somewhere in the middle, 58% or so. Again, this matters for the happiness of the people. This matters for how content people are. This matters for whether people are stealing from their neighbors and fighting all over the place. There are some good scenarios here. And I think these visioning sessions are really important because we don't often talk about the good possibilities in Nigeria. In a good scenario, over the next 5 years, we put 12 million people into jobs in manufacturing, construction, professional services, education and health, trade. You are lifting people out of poverty. Those 12 million jobs will lift 52 million people out of poverty because a person with a job feeds their family and creates knockdown employment for other people down the line. So the question for Nigeria's generation of leaders is, which country are you going to build? There are some horrendous possibilities there. There are some very bright possibilities there. And we have the opportunity to build whatever it is that we want. So what does Nigeria's next generation of political leaders look like? Well, for the first part, they look like you, those of you in the audience. Because our leaders are not people with two heads. They're not aliens. We draw them from among the populace. And so the leaders that we draw, as good or as bad as they are a reflection of the people of Nigeria themselves. And so if we have bad leaders, it means that we're putting forth the worst of us. We're not putting forth the best of us. The best of us are sitting at home. They're not politically engaged. And so if you want better leaders, You need to go out and push better leaders. We have to be politically engaged. I think something that is important for young people in Nigeria to know is our apathy, our refusal to get involved in the political process, our refusal to vote, to get a voter's card is actually a deliberate strategy. Disenfranchisement is part of the strategy. You not voting is part of the strategy because it keeps power in the hands of the people who have it today. They like things the way it is. They don't want you to vote. They don't want you to have a voter's card, so they will make it difficult. They don't want the youth party to compete, so they will make it difficult for us to compete. They will use INEC, they will use all the weapons at their hands to make it difficult for you to get engaged. And you must fight against that apathy. Otherwise, you leave the country in the hands of people who have it today. We have to be committed to the vision of Nigeria and to Nigeria itself. Um, I think federalism conversations are very, very important. But the conversations about splintering the country, about everybody going to their corner, are very, very myopic. If you look at the examples in Africa of the countries that are split, Eritrea and Ethiopia, South Sudan, there are a small fraction of what would happen if a country like Nigeria splinters. And so I think as leaders, as people, we have to be committed to the vision of working together, building a Nigeria that is united, of leaving these ethnic concerns and thinking, how do we build a country that works for all of us together? And they're genuine concerns. We must address those concerns. But without making this country work, we commit our future to misery. That's the truth. We need leaders who are committed to a long-term vision. Too many people today only see today's vision. Now, one of the things that really excites me about the NESG's work on that vision 2050 is I like people thinking 30 years out. We need to think 100 years out. And even those of us in the political sphere, we want to take over Nigeria, a country as large and complex as Nigeria. We don't start out 1 year before the elections and say you are going to win the presidency. It will take a long time. And so everyone who wants to be part of the political
process, don't raise it too, but
we are going to take years, and you might win a bunch of seats in the Senate in one election. You might win a couple of governor seats, but you have to build your power systematically, and you have to start somewhere. But too many people are too short-sighted to see the possibility. They're like, you're not going to win. So what's the point? But the people that won, they started somewhere. APC was not always a national party. And so if you plan to become leaders, if you plan to be engaged with the politics, you have to get started. You have to be, I think I've talked about being committed to Nigeria and splintered Nigeria. Understand what it takes to build prosperity. I think that's really, really critical. Things like closing our borders, things like attempting to implement policy in 2 weeks before the holidays, are evidence of leaders who don't understand the way the world works, evidence of leaders who don't understand how economics works. And I think we hire too many of those. We hire too many professional politicians, too many people who haven't built businesses or done anything else in their life. And we must change that. We really must hire people who understand how the world works, who understand how economics works, who understand how the globe works. And people are ready to do the work. Leaders who want to serve, not rule. Again, you see it in the way people respond. We said end SARS, end police brutality, and it became a matter of the government versus the people. But true service is to understand if your people are complaining, figure out how to fix their complaints, address their complaints. And so we need more leaders who are ready to serve rather than to rule. I won't speak too much, but I will say that the Youth Party is committed to finding these kind of leaders and citizens to join us. I will say that we've done a fair bit of work. We built a national infrastructure. We're working to win local races. We're building our national infrastructure across the country. So we're in 24 states right now, but we're on a massive recruitment drive. And so you should come and join us. I will put the website. We're recruiting and training great politicians. We need contributions because politics is expensive and it always will be. And we'd rather not depend on a few godfathers to support us, but the support of people who want the best for Nigeria. And that's how it's done globally. If you look at campaigns all over the world, you will find the best politicians draw their support from the people. And then we're shaping policy and building influence by putting out position papers, by challenging the government, by putting out better ideas when we see things that are being done poorly. I won't go too much through our history. I will hand over to Pastor Itua and just say thank you very, very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. And I look forward to answering the more questions and talking in a bit more detail. Thank you. I'll just put up some of our URL so that anyone who has questions can see it. Thank you.
All right, Tomiwa, thank you very much. Very well spoken. And it's gladdening to me that I see that you have a clear roadmap, a clear thinking process. As you were speaking, somebody came on Instagram and asked, how do we get students involved and capitalize on the recent movement? And I have one or two questions to ask you. Number one, you did make a small allusion to it, but maybe you can emphasize a bit more. The answers movement, what did you think of it? What do you think of it from the perspective of the young people? How could they have organized it a bit better? And of course, what do you think of it from the perspective of the government and the reaction of the government and the consequent statements by the government of denials of various things, even to the extent of saying that nobody died? I'd like you to speak on that. I can't let you get away without speaking on that. Then the second thing is the question of yeah, I won't let you get away without speaking. I wouldn't. The only thing I wouldn't do is to ask you if you were at the toll gate, lest somebody takes your name down. So I won't ask you that question. I don't think it would be fair. But I'd like to know your thoughts and your comments on that. Yes, I know.
Okay.
They take people's names down, they prevent them from traveling. I don't know how that would solve the problem of police brutality and incompetence and poorly paid police. But anyway, this is the country that we're in. The second thing, of course, is the youth party. Is there a limit as to age in terms of being able to join this party? Is it for a certain age, and beyond that age, you're out? And then how are you going about your recruitment drive? What are you people doing to really get the right kind of people on your platform that can deliver the goods as soon as possible? Please speak to those three perspectives very briefly. And if there's anybody else that has questions, we'll be taking questions in another 10, 15 minutes. Please begin to put your questions together. Thank you, Tomiwa.
Thank you, sir. So I'll speak to the first one, which is the NSAS protest. I thought they were incredibly important protests. I was very supportive. I work in the technology industry, and so we've actually been on this matter for well over a year. And I mean, others have also been on this matter for 4 or 5 years, protesting this brutality in various ways. I think it was a moment that came together through a lot of people's previous work and effort. Um, and when just a generation was tired, and was really, really tired, justifiably tired of being victimized by the people that are supposed to protect us. So I was very, very much in support of the protest. Um, and my sense is that they were really well organized in a lot of ways, from Lekki to Alausa to the entire country. I mean, um, and they showed a competence and a capability of people that is so rare to see in our government. legal response system that they built in 2 weeks allowed them to respond to people with legal issues in all 36 states within 30 minutes to an hour. That's a system that we've never had. The ability to support the protest on a nationwide basis with food and drink. The IVR line that they made so that you could call nationwide and come and request an ambulance or request legal support or request, food or drink for the protest. It just showed that essentially we're wasting the capacity of our young people. Um, and it's we as a country wasting it, but it's also the young people who refuse to get involved in the political process, keeping those skills in the private sector. And when you ask how it is I came involved in this, is ultimately I see that it's not good enough to be able to run your business. You need to be able to run your country, or you need better people running your country. And so if you have the policy to build that system, then you need to do it in government. I think the only thing that I've seen is that, too often young, capable people go into government as technocrats. So they're political appointees. And we've seen that there are limits to the work they can do in that regard. Um, Often they're unable to, because they don't wield political power, they weren't elected, they're not a decision maker. And I've met some very, very smart, very, very capable people in government, but working for people who will not take their advice. You say you are the SA to whatever position it is. And as a special advisor, you can advise, but nobody has to listen to your advice. And so I think it's critical that we start to win political office ourselves. So following the protests, I think the protests ended very badly. They ended badly because the government prefers violence to dialogue with its citizens. Um, and ultimately could not countenance and could not sort of have a constructive conversation with its citizens. There's a 5 for 5 list of requests that were put out or demands that were put out, and they were being addressed slowly. And really, what should have happened is that the government should have finished implementing those, and then the youth would have left the streets. I think there's a certain level of canny that is required to deal with the government, and a certain level of understanding of some of the cynicism that goes on in the government. I know that the response, the violent response that was received, um, and I mean, till now, we're having difficulty getting clear answers on who it is that ordered the shooting at Lekki, or any of the subsequent violence that followed. The hijacking by hoodlums of the protests, certainly not by any of the organizers of the protest. Um, And so I do think we do need from a playing the long-term game, from a being committed to the long term, to understand the various arms of government, to understand the various pressure groups within government. We need to understand that better over time because they don't play the same games as we do in the private sector. They don't play the same way we do in the private sector. And so we have to develop our understanding and deepen our understanding of how government works. Um, but I think it was an incredibly important and fair effort, and it's one that raised the consciousness and awareness of a lot of young people, which is critical. And that is what we must take advantage of in bringing these people into the political space now. And so for us, we're doing a lot of speaking, we're doing a lot of recruiting. Our nationwide recruitment drive is being handled both over the internet. So you can join our website. You can join the party simply by visiting our website and filling out a form. Youthpartyng.com is a good place to all the answers. There's actually a pretty detailed website. You can donate to the party. You can find out who our officers are. You can find out who our trustees are. You can join the party on the website, youthpartyng.com. So please do feel free to visit there. But we're also doing it on a grassroots level. Like I said, we have offices in 24 states. And so the work that we are doing on a nationwide basis is literally going state to state, ward to ward, and saying, ward chairman, you need to register 100 people in your ward over the next 2 weeks. And doing that on a nationwide basis. So currently I have 13,000 members on a nationwide basis. By the end of the first quarter, the goal is to have, of 2021, the goal is to have almost 500,000 members in the party. And so we'll do it through modern means of the web and social media, grassroots on the street. And so we must actually go word to word to actually register members. And so we're on that. In terms of recruiting people to compete on our platform, we have a process for that. Anyone can join. You have to join the party. So in order to compete, first of all, you have to join the party. And then you get an interview with our National Executive Council, or members of our National Executive Council, and we do a screening to make sure that you're aligned politically, that your values are our values, that the things that are important to us are important to you. Once that screening is done, you can say, this is the office I'm looking to run for. And we insist on a certain amount of training for everybody it is that wants to run on our party ticket. So they need to go through political orientation. They need to understand what it is the youth party stands for. We're policy oriented, and so we're always doing work on the policies that matter to us. You need to understand our policy platform. You need to say you agree to this policy platform, so that when you actually are in office, you're executing a plan that makes sense. I talked about economic prosperity as being an important quality of the next generation of leaders. It's important to us that you will not be a leader that says, I'm spending on healthcare, I'm spending on jobs, I'm paying recurring salaries, but does not know how you're going to grow your economy. It's critical that you have signed on, you understand our policies. It's important that you are not ethnically divisive. So we don't want leaders, who are going to put Igbo people against Hausa people, Yoruba people against Edo people. We're one country. All of that matters to us. So once we've screened, we also educate people on our platform. And in screening people, we're looking for people who've proven professional competence, who've proven character, who have real ability to get things done, suitable for your role. So if we're looking for we're competing in Abia State tomorrow, the local government elections. We have three people competing for councillors. So of course, the qualifications to run for that are not the same as the qualifications to run for governor of the state. So we're clear on what qualifications you need to run on what role, for what role. But what's important is you have the competence and character for that role, and then you align with our values, and then we do our training. And that's the process that we're on. Is there an age limit for joining the youth party? No, there isn't. Um, like I said, if you think about the Labour Party, in the UK, it represents the interests of Labour, which is the largest group of people uh, that in the country. Like the investors and the capitalists are one, but Labour is the largest group of people. We speak for the interests of the youth, the largest voting bloc in the country, and the future. It's not like they're the largest voting bloc now, and by next year we're not Japan, we're not growing older. For the foreseeable future, Nigeria will be a very, very young country, and so those people we must serve, and those are the people whose interests we're speaking. Thank you, sir.
So someone like me can join the party?
Please, absolutely. And when we're talking about candidates who should run for office, we want people who have built businesses. We want people who understand. I must say something, sir, actually, and you and I sit on a board together. When I told the board of Big Cabal Media where I was, that I was joining, they congratulated me, but there was a moment of hesitance. Like, should this man just be focused on building this business? Why is he going and getting involved in all this politics? And is that if we don't get involved in the political thing, we then complain about the people that are there. So yes, we want competent and capable people, young and hard, young in spirit, young and capable of getting the work done. So please, sir, come and join us and let us know what position you want to run for. I'm sure you're very, very qualified for quite a few of it.
My PA is saying some position here. So I will get him to discuss with you later. Don't let the people on the platform hear me or hear you. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. Are you open to joining forces or merging with a few parties down the line, or are you strictly going to keep yourselves the way you are? Is that on the cards at all?
Very much so, sir. With people who have also demonstrated commitment to the process, who have shown their strength, who have shown what they can do. We started trying to register this party in 2016. We officially got registered by INEC in 2018. We've sued INEC multiple times in order to be able to compete in the election we're competing in tomorrow and to be able to be recognized as a political party. It's a very long and difficult journey. We're happy to merge, but we also want to merge with people who have the same seriousness of purpose that we have, who are aligned in values. So we won't do it casually, but we're happy to do so. We're happy to discuss partnerships and arrangements where they make sense. But it is a long journey. We don't expect that in 2023 we will take over every ward and every office in the country. So we think as the journey goes on, there will be mergers, there will be partnerships, etc.
Okay, so what are your plans for 2023? What offices are you running for? Are you going to be presenting a presidential candidate? And if so, what are your strategies for winning that presidential election? I had a problem at the last elections where about 12 new faces came forward and they couldn't agree on one of them to run on behalf of everybody. And they missed a very great opportunity to, at the very minimum, make a significant impact in Nigeria. Actually, people were waiting for them to work together, and some people are ready to support them to some extent, but they were not ready to support them on an individual basis because of the let me say the strength of their office, or should I say the weakness of their office. So what are your plans for 2023? Are you presenting a presidential candidate? And if so, what are your strategies for winning that election? And then I want you to speak to this other question. Now the NSAS process has come and gone. What next for the NSAS people? Why they seem to have gone very quiet. And again, have they lost a gravitas moment? Have they lost an eureka moment? Or is it just simmering, soldering embers ready to ignite again? What next? What should the NSAS people have done? Some of the things I heard is our government said they wanted 5 things. We answered them back and we gave them 5 things, but none of them was ready to come around the table and discuss and finalize. You did mention that they wanted those things implemented. The truth really is that some of those requests will take 6 months, 9 months, 1 year to implement. You don't restructure the police force in 1 day. You don't improve wages for police in 1 day. You can end the SARS as they were by a stroke of the pen, but that doesn't necessarily bring about a deepened reform. And some of the young people that I spoke to said, we want them to implement what we've said. We want them to implement what we've said. And I say, yes, they've said they will. I mean, I've not even seen, in fairness to government, I've not seen a swifter response from government in a long time, and I've been in this country for a few years. Into saying that number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, no problem, we'll do it. Although they did make a boo-boo by starting something they call SWAT. Almost the next day they ended the instance, which made a bit of a ridicule of the whole thing. I think the government should have been a bit more sensitive than just turning around and starting SWAT just like that. It was like poking their hands in the fingers of the young people. But nonetheless, they said, well, we've ended SARS. You asked for end SARS, we've ended SARS. And we've done this, we've done that, we've done that. And you people have not come round the table to discuss. And I did say that I know my government, they will soon move against you. And they did exactly what I said they would do. But nonetheless, what next for NSAS? What should they do? What are they thinking of doing? And if you were to advise them, what would you advise? And how could they use all that energy and all that number, 65 million people repute, how can they use it, and what should they do to use it to make a change? I don't know if I've asked you too many questions,
No,
but I know that you're a brilliant mind and you would dissect my questions very strategically. Go ahead, please, Tomiwa.
thank you, sir. So let me start with 2023 plans. Um, our plan starts, well, in 2020 even. Like I said, tomorrow we compete at local government level. Um, and we will be competing in 2021 in all the by-elections that come up. We'll be competing in 2022, we'll be competing in 2023. For 2023, I suspect that the core of our goals will be legislative seats, House of Assembly, House of Reps, and the Senate. We do have some candidates who may run at state government level, state governor level. Um, And we think there is an opportunity to make a significant impact by capturing a good number of seats in the Senate, in the House of Assembly, House of Reps. These roles often have a huge, huge impact on the country. Local government seats, councilor, local government chairman. These are the things we don't talk about, but these people have a big impact on the lives of people. So they're competing at all of those levels. I talked about raising our membership from 13,000 people nationwide to 500,000 people nationwide and registering people on a nationwide basis like that also. So registering people to vote. INEC allows continuous registration to begin. These are critical things, and these are the areas where we are focused. Will we run a candidate for president? I can't say today. I will say that for today, it is not our focus because in order to defend your vote for presidency. You talked about the three presidential candidates together, or somebody in the comments talked about the three presidential candidates together gathered less than 80,000 votes from the entire country. That's because there are 774 local governments in Nigeria, 120,000 polling booths at the election. That's to have 2 to 5 people at every single one of those polling booths in order to defend your vote. That's not to get out the vote. Oh. That's not to convince people to vote for you. That's just to make sure that if 10 people voted for you, it says 10 people voted for you. If 1,000 people voted for you, it says 1,000 people voted for you. If you follow the American elections, you see that Donald Trump, Joe Biden, over the last few weeks and the entire electoral system, because despite their entire system, despite the age and strength of their system, he still had to have people in every single polling booth, making sure that the people that voted for him were counted as having voted for him, and the people that voted for the other people were counted as having voted for the other people. So if you want to run for president, you need to have the 240,000, 600,000 people working for you on the day of the election to protect your vote. If I don't have 500,000 members in my political party or 1 million members in my political party, if I can't pay those 600,000 people who are not volunteers, the employees, because you have to make sure they have money for credit so they can call you. You have to make sure that they can take a picture of the vote. If you're not ready to do that, you're not really ready to run for president. That's the truth. It's just you don't have a prayer of actually winning that position. Now, come the election, if we feel like we have that strength, if we have gone from 500,000 people to 2 million members nationwide, we have nationwide reach, the good people of this conversation and the many other conversations we have donated enough money, then yes, maybe we put up a candidate for president. And if some other parties that are aligned with us in value and spirit put up candidates, then yes, maybe we will support the candidates that we feel that person represents what it is that we stand for. And maybe we might be able to throw our weight behind that person. But for the moment, our focus is going to be legislative seats, local government seats, and building our presence nationwide as a real opposition party, as a real party with a presence among the youth that understands the youth and that speaks to the youth and speaks for the youth. And so that is where our focus is. In terms of the NSARS protest, what's next? Um, I believe that they stirred the imagination of a lot of young people. They garnered the attention of a lot of young people. And I think that energy needs to be turned political. I think that there definitely has been a bit of a lull in activities following that, but I do see some of the energy that went into the protest going into other angles. I saw FEMCO and other organizations that were involved doing food drives and being engaged with people at local level and grassroots level in other ways, but they're still doing till today. And I think that's all very, very important. I do think they need to get a lot more politically involved. I think that if you really want to change Nigeria, you need to change our leadership. And that requires putting better people into office. And so, if you were to ask me to advise the people and the leaders of NSARS, it is keep banging the drum, keep making people aware of the need to change our leadership, to put better people into office. I think engaging with the government is critical. Um, I know that we criticize government often without ever speaking to government. I know that despite the shouts of the leaderless protest. I know that there was a lot of organization that went into this protest. I know there were conversations with the government, not all of which were held in good faith by the government. So I know that there actually were negotiations and discussions. If you looked at the 5 for 5 request, there was periodic updating of the request to say, okay, this has been partially dealt with. This one has not yet been dealt with. This one has been partially dealt with. This one has been begun. So I think it'd be uncharitable to say that there was no response to what it is that the government did. The government made some motions, but some of these motions, it's also important to note, are very, very superficial. As you noted, they ended SARS one day. The next day, they started SWAT. If you go and you look, something that was flying around social media, over the last 4 years, every single year, the government has announced the abandonment of SARS or the reformation of SARS in one way, shape, or form. Until today, not till yesterday, till today, there are still men of SARS on the streets harassing citizens and causing them problems. This is still post-protest. We know that we have heard stories of SARS on the streets. And so I think anybody to say that the government acted 100% in good faith and they were, engaging in good faith would be a bit myopic and would be very, very generous. Would be being very generous to the government. I agree. There are some things that are hitting names. They reacted very quickly in. And I agree that there are some things that progress. We do see the panels going on all over the country, although of course the police is suing to stop those panels. And we've yet to see if those will translate into real reform. But we believe that the processes are ongoing and that we should continue to engage. I'm happy to see youth leaders, whether those who were involved with the protests or those who weren't, engaging in the panels and going and representing the voice of the youth in those panels. And so I think there's a fair bit of work that is going on, and it is to really continue to push people to support the political process, to engage in the political process. Yeah.
Thank you. But don't you think it's a possibility, and you're not thinking of it, that your party can attract or engage or get the 65 million youth, most of whom are don't even have a PVC? Don't you think it's possible to get them, these 65 million people, to first of all have a PVC, and secondly, get them all in your party? What would it cost you if you took that as a vision and a drive and a decision to do, to really, really get all those people on your party? Don't you think it's possible?
So I think this is the rallying cry, and this is the work. I mean, like I said, a membership drive is is our next step. It's the most critical thing that we must do. And then immediately after the membership drive, so it's great you joined the party. Do you have your PVC? But there's each of these pieces, each of these pieces of work is multiple parts, because you must get INEC to start registering people. And if you leave it to INEC, they won't start registering people until 6 months to the elections. We need them to start registering people in January.
Yeah, so I think one of the things you must do is to really lead a serious charge and pressure and galvanize everything you need to do to get INEC to start registering people immediately. And I hope they are listening to us, because they must start registering people, and they must not play politics with Nigeria. Their job is to register people. As a matter of fact, the registration of people should be continuous. Anybody who wakes up any day and decides to register for his PVC should be allowed to do so, at least up until 3 months to the election or something like that. I don't know why they just open a gap, register, and then they close the gap. No, there should be some INEC offices in some local government areas here and there, where if you want to register, you go there, or even register online. In this day of technology, you register from the comfort of your home, you do your biometric or wherever you want to do it, you send it in, and they give you a number, and they make sure that you're not double registering. With technology, you can do that. And then we continue with our lives. You know, it's unfair. And I'm telling the federal government and INEC that it's unfair, that they need to dictate my own civic right to register to vote at any time. It's unfair. It's unpolitical for them to do that. And I think this is one of the conversations we must have with INEC. They may say it's an expensive process. I don't think so. Technology these days doesn't make all these things expensive. And they don't need to have 774 offices all over Nigeria. They can have a few that keep running. Or they even say to you, come to our office in your state at your own expense, and I'll go to their office and register. And I will do so. And if I don't, then that's my problem. But this is what we need to do. And I think this is one of the conversations we really must have with INEC, whoever they are, and barricade their offices if they don't want to do that. I'm serious.
I'm with you, sir. Let's do it together.
We must.
I spent a fair amount of time engaging here with which was a major campaign. Actually, you asked about the other presidential candidates for the previous election. One of the things that I am happy to see is Madam Obiesi Kwesili has formed an organization called Fix Politics. They're working with organizations like Not Too Young to Run, the Youth Initiative, and Alliance for Good Governance. Enough is enough. We're pulling all of those organizations together to pressure INEC ensure that this continuous voter registration happens. There'll be a massive campaign around that, a massive campaign around getting people to. The reason we're having conversations like this is so that people are aware of what's necessary. Again, I mentioned earlier on, it is not in the interest of the establishment for more people to register to vote because it makes it harder for them to win the way that they've been winning. And so they will push back against it. But we must be forthright, we must be aggressive, we must be consistent in our pressure to really, really sort of like push and ensure that INEC does what it is that it's supposed to do, and that we are registering people, we are convincing people, we're keeping the energy up. Everybody says 2023. One of the reasons I said our election does not start in 2023, it starts between now and 2023. They wake up 6 months to election and say, where are those 65 million people? If we're not registering them in January, if we're not getting them engaged in January of 2021 through February or April of 2023, when the elections actually happen, then we're missing an opportunity. So we're very, very involved in this work. We will make a lot more noise about it and bring the public into it and let people know what it is they can do, whose numbers they need to call, whose offices they need to barricade, so that we actually get this going.
Thank you very, very much. I'll open the floor to people who wish to ask questions. If you want to ask the acting national chairman of the Youth Party, Mr. Tomiwa Aladekomo, any questions, or you want to make some comments, you are free to do so by simply raising your hands, and then I will take on those questions for you, and you can ask him directly yourself. But while we're okay, there are a few comments here. These are just comments. Pastor, is there a possibility in an undying reason for not doing this? Yeah, well, Tomiwa has said that the people in power are just simply not interested because it's not in their best interest to educate people, to inform people, and to make a group of people politically active. So we have to fix ourselves, and we have to take on the gauntlet, and we have to face government and face INEC and really, really pressurize them to do what is right in Nigeria. And that's one of the things we're trying to sensitize people to on this platform. The need for you to get involved, the need for you to make noise, the need for you to complain loudly, the need for you to go to your local government chairman or your INEC official or your president in Katsina or Daura or wherever he is and tell him that, Mr. Man, you have to wake up and do the right thing. How can 100 and something girls get missing in Chibok? And while we're recovering from that, 330 boys, maybe even over 600 boys get missing in Kankara in Katsina State. What kind of insult and affront is that to the president that even in his own home state, they're abducting people? And it coincides with when he then takes a visit to that home state. And he's sitting down and just looking, and he doesn't even express any opinion or anger or infuriation or something. And the service chiefs are sitting there. What kind of a movement will take 300 people? It takes a lot of organizing to just move 300 people. And nobody knew, and they took them away. And why are they taking them anyway? What are they going to do with those people anywhere? Why? What's the point of just going to capture 300 students, and then what are they trying to embarrass the government, or are they trying to make life miserable for people? Those things are senseless. It has no meaning to me. It just tells me that a group of people are sitting somewhere and wanting to just deliberately cause confusion in Nigeria for no good reason and cause political unrest. And the government is sitting there and looking at them. It means that the government is cooperating with them, and it must be in the interest of some people in government for this kind of thing to be going on. And that tells you what we're speaking against. Tomiwa, speak to me about restructuring, or if you have any comments on this Kankara, Katsina issue, I'll be glad to hear your comments and opinion. But I'm particularly very, very upset and angry that it seems as if it's even government motivated as far as I'm concerned. It's not an easy thing to move 300 people if government or some arm of government is either not deliberately looking away or being part of it. You know, some people in my church were kidnapped about 3-4 weeks ago, and the kidnappers were boasting that they have the support of the police, they have the support of government, that the guns they are using, they got them from government armory. They were boasting, you know, and even when we spoke to the people, law enforcement, they didn't even seem to know, or they didn't even believe that they themselves could do anything. I mean, it was such a very, very, powerless situation. And it means this reign of ignominy, this reign of telling people that I can kill somebody and walk away. I mean, how can that happen? You kill a man, you kill him in broad daylight, 12 people, put him in a pit, cut off his neck, and they walk away. And people think they can get away with it. Tomiwa, what are we going to do about this kind of insecurity issues? And also, what are your thoughts on restructuring this nation? People keep calling about constitutional reform. They talk about restructuring. People have also talked about the Chinese template of leadership recruiting. I'd like to know your thoughts on these things, and then take a few questions.
I mean, and I'm so sorry to hear about your church members who got kidnapped. This situation with the students getting kidnapped is it's appalling. And I think one of the things that is most appalling about it is the lack of empathy, the lack of seriousness from the government in addressing it. Your president, again, like you said, in the same state, less than an hour away from where it happened, does not take time away from his break and his crowds to go and visit the place and to speak to the issue. I think it speaks to the lack of seriousness by this government in terms of addressing insecurity. And I think a lot of the reason people as a former military man, he would take security more seriously, be able to handle it. That's obviously been proven very, very wrong. This administration has proven no more capable of addressing the insecurity in the country. Unfortunately, corruption plays a huge, huge part in this. We can tell the security votes at state level, at presidential level, every year are massive. So we're spending all of this money on security and seeing very little impact on the ground. Um, so I do think, again, this is why we need a change of leadership. And I think one of the things that is most embarrassing is that, no one has paid any political price for this. No one has been fired. Nobody has been called to order. It's terrible. I mean, it's absolutely terrible. And it shows a general lack of competence and a lack of urgency. This is the kind of thing you declare a state of emergency for, and you really, really sort of put resources to solve. So it's absolutely terrible. And it's one of the reasons we need to change our leadership at national level. And we need people who are a lot of empathy. And I think empathy is a really big part of this because you can see that there's a lack of response, there's a lack of care. This is not something anywhere else. Everybody would be at attention. The entire cabinet, the Federal Executive Council meeting happened towards fixing this issue. We heard a little while ago that there was one American citizen sort of captured in Nigeria, and America flew people in to come and fight and extract their man in Nigeria, another country, for one person. We have hundreds of students going missing, and nobody is doing it. It's terrible. So I think that is something that, and we wrote a very strong statement as a party against it. We put it out yesterday. I think we've been speaking about the issue. It's absolutely critical that as a government that we are a lot more serious about sort of handling these things. You asked about sort of federalism and restructuring the country. There's We've talked a lot about this within the party, and fundamentally we think, look,
I think you got stuck. Tomiwa, can you hear us? Tomiwa, I think technology is keeping us. Tomiwa, maybe you need to log out and log back in. We'll wait for you. But in the interim, I see my brother Femi Adefokwe is on the platform, and I'm not going to let him get away with just being on the platform. Maybe he may have some comments, and after which I'll take some comments also from my brother, Mr. Ayoeroche, and also Bimbo Ashiru. So, my brother, Uncle Femi, I'm sure you'll have some comments here and there. I've been seeing you on the platform in the background, and I'm going to ask you to please speak a few minutes while we're waiting. Please unmute yourself. He's run away. All right. Otumba Bimbashiru, are you there? Okay, Tomiwa is back. But I can't hear you, Tomiwa. Yeah, I'm muted. Tomiwa, unmute yourself.
okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Excellent. So you spoke about restructuring. You asked about restructuring the country, and I think this is one of those things that is a little bit. When you ask five people for their opinions on restructuring, you get six different answers, and so I don't think it's very clear to people what we mean when we say restructuring. Fundamentally, the way we think about within the party is that you must have power devolved to each region so that people are able to live prosperous lives and be governed in a way that makes sense for themselves. And so, um, for us, we think there's the possibility of having sort of six self-governing prosperous regions. And prosperity is important because really you must have a country that works for people. Prosperity meaning that each of these regions is growing, that the economies that make the most sense for them are what it is that they are practicing, and that they are able to govern themselves in a way that makes them happy, that their resources are contributing to their own benefit. And so the practical things that you need to do are things like just reviewing resource allocation and what it is that goes to the federal government versus what it is that goes to each region, to ensure that people don't feel as if their wealth or their sweat is being contributed to the center and nothing is coming back to them, or dregs are coming back to them. To feel like they are fair, they are fairly to feel like they are being fairly dealt with by the center, to feel like the laws that govern them make sense and that they have a say in their own governance, which I think a lot of people don't feel like they do at the moment. And so I think that is roughly the way I think about it. I will say that in full detail, this is something that we're still discussing within the party. But it is important that people feel like the country is fair to them and that they are able to have a say in the way they are governed, really.
Thank you very much. I see there's a lady, Onyikon Fetuga. I'm going to ask Onyikon to make a comment or ask a question. I'm sure she's youth and youth inclined herself. I don't know how youth she is these days, but Onyikon, can I have a comment or question from you? You can please unmute yourself. Everybody's playing the silent game today. Maybe NSAS is frightening them. Dixon Oguswa, I see you there. I'm sure you must have a comment. You've been in the political trenches for a long time. You can unmute yourself. Emmanuel. Okay. Maybe while Dixon is getting himself together. While you're light on, I hear you have. Is that Dixon?
Hello.
Okay, Dixon. All right. You have a comment or a question very quickly?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I saw you this, but that's for this platform. I don't know how old is he. I'm 50, so if I say young man, tax man, well, it's okay. They said youth party. We've been through it, and I'm sorry to say, because of the level of corruption, and people don't know what is called loyalty. They don't have the definition of loyalty. Money determines the level of loyalty the elderly, everybody will give you in Nigeria. Money that you give or the prosperity of the man that can be quantified by physical cash and throw around the words. That makes people to be loyal. Many a time, our friends ask somebody like me and ask ourselves, why are we not rich? But we thank God we have elderly people who believe in us. Some of our friends who believes in us. That when it comes to corruption, when it comes to buying him over, or you can narrow him with me or with story. If you somebody is extremely go and call him, go and call this, go and call. But very few. This youth party is going to be national conscious. It's going the way of national conscious party. It will go the way of campaign for democracy. We're all there. It will go the way of every system, every past movement that we experience in Nigeria. And when it comes to them, if they will seek advice, see, Nigeria, we need democratic institutes that people like them can go to and learn what gets people in politics and what is politics itself. And how do you maintain a political status in life? Our get quick of these youths will not allow you to work. Let me tell you, our friends are given political office, and you don't see them again. The boys that we trained, a particular girl, sorry, I mentioned her name, I changed her about 2 months ago or 1 month ago. I brought her up politically. I brought her out even in politics, but in political. And she made success with, apart being brilliant, lucky. You know, she doesn't bring me again. That is the problem of it. Even to the colleagues, before you know it, they start being big boy. If Pastor Itwa decides to give 10 Rolls Royce or Jeep to the leadership of this youth, I tell you, the colleagues that say give to Mr. Olu, give to Nnamdi, they will not greet them in. And that's during the ESA problem. You see, they cannot even have leadership. My advice.
Okay.
You don't need youth party. If you know you want to do politics, and everything is destroyed in the war, of them, go through the process. Not somebody will just come abroad or bring money and they will give him the ticket and run. No, but are spoiled. And we have leaders. I'm sorry, Pastor. I know you very, very well. In fact, I say I buried your mom. You handed over to me. And that woman, Mrs. Fola, she will scream, she will shout at the meeting of elders and recognize any person that has made contribution over time. But do you have that kind of leaders today?
Okay,
People will stand up for you. The youth too, do you have youth who are ready to flow?
Ready to do
Tomiwa, what I will ask you?
Yes, sir.
Not better than you politically. Okay, see the Mr. Vice President. Even sit I know boys who work for him, who we are friends. I will not mention it, but my pastor will know. If I mention to it, I didn't even know them because I've seen them for years. It was later I said, don't you know this, don't you know that? And I went to them. I said, excuse me, do you know me? He was pretending. Because they know your structure, they know where you're coming from, they will block you, forgetting the principal. Even when the principal needs you so much. It happens even around you, Mr. Pastor, sir. It happens around our leadership.
No problem. So,
that is
Tomiwa,
what
maybe
is
you want to
in
speak
Nigeria.
and respond to what
I will beg him, let me round up.
And yes, and the complications of politics and
I will beg
corruption
him,
in politics.
if they want to politics,
there
is no 65 million youth anywhere. It's all fake, it's all flukes. Because Nigeria's population, I don't believe we have 200 and something million people that they said we have. I don't believe we have more than 70 million. Nigeria don't have a good data.
Okay.
Nigeria just lying. In Nigeria, body dies. In Nigeria, people all multiply every year. What about all people Boko Haram are killing? What are the people that are depending on them? There is no subtraction in Nigeria. There is always geometrical addition. So let me, in 2 years now, say we are 300 people.
Let Tomiwa respond, Dixon, let Tomiwa respond to some of these things. Okay, thank you, Tomiwa. Go ahead and respond, and let's see what your thoughts are.
Okay, so for some of the people who are on Instagram, I might not have heard the question or the comments that have been made, and some of the same comments are also being written in the Zoom chat. There's some concerns around the idea that we are youth-focused and that there are not enough youth, or that the youth are not politically savvy enough to lead the country, or that there simply are not actually enough of us to vote. Now, I agree that there's definitely a data problem in Nigeria. Are we actually 200 million people, 215 million people, or 150? That is hard to tell. That being said, we do know that there's a very, very substantive youth population. And I think all data points to that, both from whatever census we've done in the past and any information that we've seen from international sources. So I don't think there's any doubt that there's a large and important youth population within Nigeria. If you look at our universities, you see them full of people. If you look at our secondary schools, if you look on the streets, you see millions of young people, poorly employed, poorly educated, poorly remunerated. And so there's a large youth population. Again, as a party, are we saying that we are formed only of young people? No, we are not. We say we speak for the youth of Nigeria, who are the largest population. We say we are looking for young, a generational change, a generation of young, competent leaders. And I have told Pastor Itwa he's very, very welcome to join us and to run on our platform, because we are not excluding people by age in the party. But the people that we speak for are the young people, who are the largest population of this country and will be for the long term. It is important, as you build a political party, to study and learn from history and from the mistakes of parties in the past. So we are very, very aware that we are not going to do this on the wisdom of a bunch of 20-something or 30-something-year-old people alone. We have a lot of supporters, we have party members, we have people within our trustees, we have organizations that we are engaged with that have been in the political struggle, that have been for a very long time. And those people share their knowledge and share their plans. So being called the youth party does not mean that we're arrogant about the role of youth. or pretend that we have any secrets that only us have. We're constantly engaged in conversations with people across all age groups. We're constantly engaged with people who are as keen and obsessed with building a good future for Nigeria as we are. So there's no arrogance to this. There's no pretense that we will solve this on our own. We seek broad-based membership, and we ask that anybody who thinks they have ideas, please come and join us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's take another question from Wale Olaiton. Wale Olaiton, please unmute yourself and let me hear you.
So much, Pastor, and thanks so much, Tomiwa, for that presentation. In your presentation, you made reference to United Nigeria as fundamental to your party.
Yes, sir.
You said is at the core of what the party believes, and
yes.
that in all your planning and programs, you actually believe in that. I just want to call your attention that as we all aware, in many political discussions in Nigeria, there's always this North and South, dichotomy in terms of political discussions, and by extension, the associated progressives and conservative ideological inclinations that are often associated with, North and South. Now, in saying that, how is your party, strategically, how is your party, youth party, trying to build the bridge across the Niger to our brothers and sisters, in that part of Nigeria, so that the Nigeria of your dream, the Nigeria of that one united Nigeria, can be represented, in that part. Because in my lifetime, I've seen cases whereby we had parties. We even had an election in 1993. I was, an undergraduate back then. I was a fresh year student in 1993. We had this election, June 12th, that, the most well-respected election. And by the time the military annulled that election, what happened? We were fighting for to reclaim or to revalidate that election in the South. But unfortunately, brothers and sisters up north, they've moved on to other things while we're killing ourselves, down south. And I believe in what you do. I share your optimism, but also I want you to be very strategic and to be, more realistic in terms of, how to really bring us together, since you believe that at the core of what you do is, united Nigeria. So if you can share with us strategically how you actually try to really to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wale. Please go ahead, Tomiwa.
I think it's a wonderful question. And for those on Instagram, the question was around how it is that we unite the north and south of Nigeria, because politically, it always seems like we're playing two different games. I agree. It's a really big challenge. As a party, a few things that we are doing. So our membership is national. Our leadership is national. And if you go to youthpartyng.com and you go to About the Party and look under our leadership, you'll see whether within our trustees or within our National Executive Council that we have strong membership from all over the country. We pay attention to that. We believe in competence we believe in competence, but we're also very, very careful to make sure that we are representing the entire country. So there are 28 people on the National Executive Council. There's a strong balance of male and female leadership. There's a strong balance of leadership from all over the country. That's absolutely critical. From a political perspective, I think that's something that we often do in the South, and I'm from the South, is we let the elite of the North speak for the region. We let the political players alone speak for the region. We very, very rarely go and speak on the ground. And so you find if you look at a party like APC, their political strategy was to build their strength in the Southwest and then to merge with CPC, which held in the North. And so they didn't have to go and do any work to actually speak to the people on the ground in the North. They didn't have to build their own leadership within the North. They didn't have to find their surrogates to speak to them, to speak to the people on the street in the North. And I think as a party, it's important to us to find people who are aligned with our values in the North and to bring them into the party, to find leaders. And in the North, I think aristocracy and religion sort of rule and play a much bigger weight in terms of what the man on the street thinks about things or how they see the world than they do in the South, where we can be a lot more independent of our leaders. People feel a little bit more able to make their own decisions. It's critical for us that there be leaders from the North within our party, people who have a voice on the street, people on the street there respect, but who are aligned with our values, who are aligned with what it is that we care about, who can speak for us, who can say, come, join this party, come, join this movement. And I think that's the thing that certain leaders don't often do enough is sort of build those alliances, build those relationships. And we've got strong membership. I mean, the day I was made acting national chair, the first person that congratulated me was from Kaduna, somebody I went to secondary school with. And she said, oh, yeah, there are a lot of youth party members here that I'm friends with. And that was heartwarming. In the last elections, we ran in Bauchi, we ran in Abia State, we ran in Lagos. So we're running a national party. Like I said, we're competing in Abia tomorrow. But when we compete, when we think about building our membership, when we build our leadership, we want party members in Gombe, we want party members in Jigawa. We want a party that truly has national reach. And we need to speak to and understand what it is that people care about in every part of the country. In the Delta, what are your concerns? In the Northwest, what are your concerns? In the Northeast, what are your concerns? North Central, because these are three different regions with three different sets of concerns, three different perspectives on the world. And even within each of those regions, if you go, what are the concerns of the youth versus what are the concerns of the elites versus what are the concerns of, people of working age, you will find different sets of concerns. And so as a party, it's important to us that we are speaking to all of these people, understanding and building policies and speaking to them about the things that matter. I think often the mistake that we make is that we don't do that work. We allow surrogates to speak for the North. We allow surrogates, we engage and dialogue only with the surrogates. So you are dealing with a leadership that's drawn from the military or that's drawn from, a small political elite, and you're assuming that they are speaking for the millions of people who are up there. You have to go and do your own work. You have to get on ground and speak to people and build your own following. And that's the work that we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you. I think Bolu Olowo Yeye also wants to ask a question or make a comment.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Bolu.
I agree with Mr. Dixon. I feel like one of our biggest problems in Nigeria is that we do not collect enough data, so we do not plan.
Okay.
Secondly, I wanted to talk about restructuring. I was watching the news yesterday, and the former emir mentioned something about prerequisites for restructuring, and he pointed to he made mention of institutions and the civil service, which I think we don't speak about enough. I know he mentioned about the 6 zones that can govern themselves in a way that they feel happy, but I think we need to look at the civil service and the office of the citizen as well. And the institutions, what are we doing about that? And then thirdly, finally, on the issue of security, I know we are technologically backward. I wanted to find out what your opinion is on people investing in actually, manufacturing weapons or, people in the private sector, going into, manufacturing of weapons, security, hardware, whatever it's needed. Thank you very much.
Okay, Tomiwa.
So I think 3 different questions there, one around data and our data culture as a country, importance to thinking about the way the government goes from a federalism perspective. 3, manufacturing. You spoke specifically about weapons, but I will talk to manufacturing broadly. I think, yes, our data culture is quite weak. Data culture is quite weak, and we need to improve that. I work in the technology sector. I sometimes, sort of engage with the government, whether it's NITDA or other organizations like that. I think there's a ton more work to be done. Efforts like this, the national ID number registration that's just been mandated to get done in 2 weeks are kind of indications of a government that doesn't know how to plan. But they are important efforts. We've needed a national ID for decades now and have repeatedly failed through multiple governments to actually implement it because of a mix of ineptitude and corruption. And I think that's one of those things that we absolutely, and any serious government must fix. And when we engage with the government agencies to do better and advise what ways they can do it in practical ways that don't hurt citizens or punish citizens as the government tries to do a SIM registration or name registration, etc. So those are critical things. And both as a party and as a person individually, I can say that we understand the importance of this. We continually advocate and push for the government to do these things in better ways. In terms of institutions and the civil service, you are absolutely right. One of the most critical parts to fixing Nigeria's government is right-sizing our civil service, is better pay for our civil service. If you look at organizations, our countries that succeed, they have well incentivized civil service people who will stay in government for decades because they are treated well and treated with dignity, and they understand that their role is to serve people, and they are able to do their jobs without needing corruption to thrive. And I think we've treated our civil service very, very badly for decades. Um, Firing them, not paying their pensions, we've really just not treated the civil service like the backbone of the country that it needs to be. And so there's a fair amount of work for any serious governments to do to make sure that we actually are treating the civil service right, that we're inspiring our best and brightest to come into the civil service, but also that we don't have a civil service that is so bloated that we are spending 70% of our national budget on recurrent payments only and salaries only. And there are lots of ways in which we can see that, the duplication of ministries and agencies, we're constantly sort of creating new excuses for people to tax and harass people, and growing, our institutions not in productive or practical ways. So I think any serious government would need to sort of reduce the number of agencies and ministries that they are, and then make sure that people that are in there have proper goals, are clear about what their mission is, and then are properly compensated for those roles. And then the rest of the people, you try to ease back into the private sector, which is hopefully a more productive private sector because you're doing all the other things you need to do to stimulate the economy. In terms of the manufacture of weapons, I think we need a much, much larger manufacturing and industrial base in this country. That's absolutely critical as a party. We know that. And it's one of those things that is critical for us to build if we're to build a prosperous Nigeria. As much as we're going to build a digital and technology and services driven economy, you also need a certain level of industrialization. So you must be producing things. You must be able to build your own cars and maintain your own roads. And you need to be an industrial nation. So there's a fair amount of work that is absolutely critical for us to do. Should we be manufacturing weapons? It wouldn't be the place where we would start. As a party, that would not be our starting point in terms of what it is that we need within the country. Unfortunately, we are awash in small arms between the war in Libya and being a trade route for a large number of sort of weapons and arms dealers. The Niger Delta is awash in small arms. The Northwest is awash in small arms. So I think we have more weapons than we need on ground. Perhaps our military could be better armed. Like all things, eventually we should get self-sufficient. You want to be able to arm your own army. But as a place where we should start, I mean, please let us build our own cars. Let us build our own railways. Let us build even the small. Let us build the tools that we need for agriculture. Let us build our own implements. Those are the places where we believe that it's critical for us to really, really get moving as a country. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Peace Ogun Lucy, I think. She's a young lady. She's on this platform. I don't know if Peace has any questions or any comments. She's just finished youth corps, or she's just about to start youth corps. So if you're talking about a young person, this is a young person. Peace, do you have a question or a comment? She's hiding in her youth corps uniform, maybe. Okay, Emmanuel Mock, please, you have a question or a comment? Please unmute yourself. Emmanuel Mock, you did indicate that you wanted to ask a question or a comment.
Yeah, good evening all.
Good evening, Emmanuel.
Yes, I want to make some comments because I have been involved as the national chairman of a political party and even as the National Secretary of IPAC. So I know a bit about all of these developments. I must say very sincerely that the Youth Party will not go very far. The reason being that in constituencies, the sitting government have a lot of financial muscle and they have a lot of control on the voting electoral process. And so my sincere advice for us, especially the youth who form more than 50% of the voting population, would be in every community to decide on which of the major parties to go into en masse. If they come in en masse and they are as vocal as they were in the NSAS protest, they will make impact in the decisions that brings about who becomes a candidate. That's a very critical thing, the candidates to be put out there. But if you are a party, no matter the candidates on your platform, we know how the elections go. So that's one on the effective political activity level that I want to advise. For this level, you have like 5 key parties that I would say are out there. And one of those parties is a youth party, that is the Young People's Party. That party has representatives in government already. Now, if you look at PDP, APC, Social Democratic Party, and maybe any other two that are effective. That's my point on that.
Noted.
The alternative is for this party, the youth party, to keep building itself, and that will take time. But then that can be changed if we all, because the biggest problem we have is the electoral process. Registration, like Pastor Itwa has talked about, INEC is supposed to be registering people and giving them their voter cards. But people are not being registered, and even those who are registered don't get their voter cards. So that's a major thing. And then 2, on the day of election, how results are released. So
please, if you are not speaking, mute yourself. If you are not speaking, please mute yourself. Thank you. Emmanuel, sorry for that interruption. Go ahead.
Yes. So we as a nation, we as a people, especially the youths, who are so large and who have such a strong impact, along with people like church leaders who can move the congregations in the church, and they can influence mosque leaders too, Muslim leaders, to move the congregation in the mosque, so that we demand electoral reform. In fact, the electoral reform of the 8th Assembly was actually an effective electoral reform. The present electoral reform that is going on with this 9th Assembly is actually a dangerous electoral reform, because they are instituting processes that are very easy to manipulate and rig. The previous one of the last election was far better, but the president refused to sign it. I tell you, the truth is that people like us are supposed to pay attention to what's happening in the National Assembly, 1. 2, we are supposed to protest that a good electoral system be in place. INEC should not have denied its server. And that process, where at the counting point, after counting, results are uploaded to a server that is non-manipulatable, is the only way for a party like the Youth Party to have a candidate win. For somebody like Pastor Itwa to win an election in Nigeria, the people would vote us. But as long as the political powers that have all the influence and money and the security system in place behind them can manipulate the results, then everything else we are doing is just a waste of time. So that's the next thing that I say must be done. Finally, I advise that we need to implement a voting process like the American system of elections. You can't have a system where, say, like happened in 2015 in Kano, one state that has 800,000 registered voters declares 2 million votes. And because of those 2 million votes from Kano alone, a candidate wins. And perchance that 2 million votes was rigged. there must be a form of electoral college vote such that every state a party wins. That party gets a certain number of electoral votes like the Americans are doing. That way you cannot be president in Nigeria or governor in a state except you have an average of a votes across the different constituencies effective, not the one where Nigeria will say 25% into third of the majority. Meanwhile, it is the total votes that matter. So these things are things that we need to look at. Okay. And so it's necessary to sit down to look at this and engage government now. If we wait till 2023, what happened in 2015 and what happened in 2019 will repeat itself. Simple. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Those are very, very incisive comments and thoughts. A bit scary or alarmed, though, that you say the Youth Party won't go far. My thoughts before Tomiwa speaks is that a lot of these parties that seem to be robust parties today started off somewhere. Yeah, they may take them a bit of time, but I don't think we should just allow these juggernaut parties to think that they have us by the jugular and think that somebody else cannot wake up and throw them up. But Tomiwa, let me allow you to speak for yourself. After this, I just want you to take your own closing comments, and then I'll give a vote of thanks and we can close. Our time has really gone a little bit faster than we anticipated. Tomiwa, over to you.
All right, sir. So thank you very much. I very much agree with you that Emmanuel is wrong about how far we will go. And I understand his experience having been in a political party and worked with IPAC, that it is very difficult to build a political party up on ground. That being said, we're very clear on the difficulty of it and on the difficulty of the mission that we are going on. And we're happy to go on that mission. Why are we doing that rather than joining the existing political parties? We started out by sponsoring candidates in the existing political parties, and we've seen that those are closed systems. The existing political structures do not want new people within those parties. They are not looking for a massive influx of young people in an area to take over their parties. They resist this very, very heavily. And it's the same way the system resists people coming in, but ultimately we don't believe that there is a lot to be gained in going where you are not welcome. As a political party, we will build from ground up. It might take a bit more time, but we're willing to do that work. I agree with you on the current electoral reform. There are a lot of issues in INEC's current bill. There was a hearing in Abuja this week where we were represented. We put together a memoranda against that. And I think you must have missed the earlier part of the conversation where we said there is a lot of work to be done on electoral reform. There's a lot of work to be done in terms of lobbying INEC and the Senate and our representatives to make sure that the laws that are being passed in terms of elections are favorable to all parties. There is a deliberate and concerted effort to reduce the participation of new players in the political space. We are very aware of that. And that is part of the work that we must fight as new political parties and as young people who want to see the country move forward. That is part of the work. It is absolutely critical for you to lobby INEC, for you to lobby senators, for you to lobby representatives, to make sure that they are representing all of us and not their own interests. But we're very, very engaged in this process. There's never been a time when there's been a call for memoranda on electoral reform where we haven't had a position on it, where we haven't had people representing us in Abuja. I personally engage with INEC significantly. There's a lot of work that is ongoing on that. And we think there's something that Pastor Ichwa mentioned, which was it is in the interest of the established parties for you to think that there is no way for you to beat them. But APC, you may remember, was once Action Group, AC, ACN, before it became the national party that it is today. So everybody started somewhere. Everybody won their first seat the first time. We hope to win ours tomorrow. But everybody must start somewhere. And I do not, and so fundamentally, that is the mission that we're on. We understand the difficulty of it. We're willing to do the work. I spoke earlier on about the need to play long-term games and to think long-term and not to assume that the battle will be won in the first sort of inning. So we are here for the long term. We're happy to build for the long term. And we believe that we'll have a significant impact on Nigeria's political space and Nigeria's government. Thank you.
Tomiwa, thank you so much for coming in today. It's been fresh, it's been different, it's been very incisive. And I must really commend the level of work that I think, and thinking and planning that I think that you all have put into this. My sincere prayer is that God will send you, or you'll be able to find the right men, the right people who would really, really be committed to and loyal and sincere about this process and jump on it. Because what Dixon was saying, even though it wasn't very clear, is that the level of disloyalty, insincerity, guile, and all manners of shenanigans politically in Nigeria is phenomenal. You know, everybody's just thinking of personal gain. And that's one of the problems with Nigeria. Too many people thinking only of personal gain and personal position. And until we all start thinking more nationally and more national interest and what is in the best interest of Nigeria, we really will be begging the question. So one of the things we need to agree to on this platform, and even you in the youth party, is to get people to say party is supreme, national interest is supreme. Let everybody bury their own personal interest for a few seconds, and let us all agree on what is in the best interest of the greater majority, even if you are going to do that by a simple vote. And let's carry the day. So I want to be president, no doubt. But if the party says Mr. A or Mr. X or Mr. Y is better suited for one reason or the other, that's no reason to now start sabotaging that process and going off in anger. We must then line up behind this gentleman, because if he wins, we all win. And that's the problem with Nigeria. Winner take all. Nobody wants to join forces. My personal interest is more important. Even when you don't even have resource, you still want to be governor, you still want to be president. You don't have a base, you don't have resource, you don't have anything. But then you muddy the water because of your personal interest. So that's very, very important for us all to change our thinking, be ye transformed by the renewing of the mind. And one of the things we need to speak to in Nigeria today is the renewing of the average mind of the average Nigerian, to get them to know right from wrong, good from bad, and who is a competent leader from who is just a politician and just there for his own good. In fact, the electorate is so weakly informed that anybody can go and entice them with a mess of porridge, and they are so hungry, they vote for anything, and they get what they have voted for, and then they start to get a bit angry. We need to also have a changing of the thinking of the average Nigerian. Tomiwa, do you have any final comments as we close? I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody that has been on this platform. I know your mom is on the platform. I didn't see your dad, and I'm going to fine him for not being here. Or get him to underwrite all our political expenses. I think that's what he should do. And if you're nice to me, Tomiwa, I'll tell you where he's hiding his money. So that he can bring it forward. You know, I want to thank Auntie Mrs. Fetuga for being on the platform. Bimba Shiru, I know you don't want me to mention your name. Thank you very much. Sonny Nebi, you are here. Oyinkan Fetuga, Tomi Oyeshola, who should be running for office herself. Toyin Tokuta, all the way in America. Yejide Aki Bolwa, I think you are there somewhere. Woju, I see you. Dolapo, you are hiding in the platform there. Abi Veritas, thank you for joining. I know it took you a lot of stress to join. Remy Dairo, who is trying to do things with ethics and technology and transformation. Bruno Osi, good to see you. Eni Abitobi, I am grateful. We appreciate you all. We close today after Tomiwa's closing comments, but we'll be back third Thursday of January 2021. Benny Kentebe, good to see you. Eno, I see you there. Donald, I see you. Temiyemi, God bless you. Thank you very much. Modupe, thank you. Efa, thank you. Bemi, BC, Esther, Deji, Oyinloye, thank you very, very much for being here. We had Yemi Candid Johnson a few weeks ago, my old classmate from Maryhill, Brilliant presentation on the Constitution. Bola, BCO, good. Today we have Tomiwa here. We had Uncle Ayo Padokun, who took us through history. We had so many people. Yemi, she did a great job at Damalekun last week, talking about enough is enough and the youth and everything. She was so knowledgeable. I thank everybody from the bottom of my heart. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. I wish you a wonderful New Year ahead. Bumi Lawson, it's good to see you. Thank you for this morning for SIO. Faith Ogumbo, thank you very much. Tokumbo, thank you. Ade, thank you very much. Tolu Dairo, Tolu, my in-law, thank you also for being here. Tolu Dari, Fola Olofoeku, look at you. Auntie Omikunle, thank you very much. Jide, thank you for being here. Orel Dusi, Biola Ufeli, thank you for supporting Heritage Homes. I thank you very much. RCCG worship team, I wonder who that is. Tony Eze, Jeremy Goichi, thank you very much. Joan, Ada, thank you very much. Emmanuel, we're going to get you on the platform, so please send me your number, 0703-187-1514, 0703-187-1514, so that we can arrange to get you on the platform. Also, Wale, Sheikh Ladipo with the COVID beard. Good, thank you. My brother, Good Ayahu, thank you. Donald, Glasgow, God bless you. Bolu Owoyeye, thank you very much. Bingpe Balogun, my chartered taxation sister, thank you. Henry B, give us a smile. You must still run for politics, Henry. Alaba, happy birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday, the big 6-0. Congratulations. Elijah, good to see you. Fumi, good to see you. William Usman, thank you very much. Wale Ajiwe, you're welcome. Thank you so much. Nunji Aderi, Obalola, thank you very much. Yemo, thank you. Olufumlayo, thank you. You've been very, very good. We wish you very well. Auntie Ronke Fetuga, thank you. Olatunde King, Samson Omole, thank you for conducting that funeral today. Wale Rokosu, thank you. Regina, God has something great ahead for you. Adaogia, thank you very, very much, and so on and so forth. Tomiwa, final comments as I wind this down.
Okay, sir. So I've requested to join again on Instagram because it looks like I got kicked off. So if you can, please accept that. But thank you so very much for having me today, sir. And thank you everyone who took the time to come and join and to listen to us speak. I appreciate that you're all concerned about the governance of this country and of the future of this country. At Youth Party, we are extremely concerned about it, and we're doing the work to build a new generation of leaders, to build a new generation of leadership for the country. We're happy to answer your questions. Please reach out to us. Please join. I have put the link to the party website in the comments, and you can get a lot of detail about the party on there. Please engage, and we're happy to answer your concerns. We look forward to your support. We look forward to you joining us as we do this work to build new political movements across the country. We are funded by the donations, by the support of our members. And so we ask that you do support us if you think the work we're doing has meaning, if you think there is value in having a robust opposition, in having different parties engaging with the country, you should please support us. I put the link in the comments there so you can see a manifesto, why you should join us, information about our leadership, all of it is on the website. But thank you so very much for your patience and your time this evening. And God bless you all. God bless Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you, my chairman of the Youth Party of Nigeria. God bless you. Thank you very much. It's been a very refreshing session. Merry, Merry Christmas. A prosperous New Year ahead. And by His grace and mercy, see you all in the New Year. And Nigeria will indeed be great again. Thank you. God bless you.
Bless you.